Hey, what's up guys, my name is Charlie, welcome back to another requested reaction video, and it's gonna be worst plug-and-play consoles ever by Rerez, or Rerez, or whatever you pronounce the name. Yeah, let's check out the video. But this video was requested by Lita, or Litta, however you spell your name. I am so sorry if I got it wrong. I've probably lost a subscriber. I am so sorry. I've butchered your name. But it's spelled L-I-T-A, so I don't know if it's Litta or Lita. Yeah, let's check out the video, shall we? Let's go.
We've taken a look at a bunch of really bad video game consoles here on Rerez, and most of these systems are clone consoles that are just ripped off from some other manufacturer without them knowing and reproduced and mutilated in horrific ways. Now the console I'm going to show you today came from a manufacturer that I wasn't even aware made video game systems, but apparently at some point during the Nintendo 64 era, they made this. This is the Shopping Channel plug-and-play video game system. It is by far one of the worst consoles I've ever looked at.
Nintendo 64
This system was
controller.
most likely not actually made by the folks at the Shopping Channel, but they imported it and branded it with their own sticker and stuff. Now, I really don't know why they did this, but I have to assume that when they saw the release of the Nintendo 64, the Shopping Channel wanted in, and they wanted something that would appeal to a whole bunch of parents out there that had kids that wanted Nintendo 64s. But instead of giving them something like an actual Nintendo 64, or God forbid an actual PlayStation system that had 3D graphics, they went with the cheapest option possible. A kind of N64 looking controller with 15 terrible NES games built into it.
Now before we take a look at those 15 games, and believe me, you're gonna want to stick around for that, let's take a closer look at this controller. Now right off the top, you're gonna notice that it's got an analog joystick.
And of course, because this system is an NES on a chip, it would never make use of analog inputs.
Which this definitely isn't. What it is one of these D-pad faceplate things underneath a bit of plastic with a little stick sticking out. It's horrible. It really isn't that responsive at all, and if you're going to have to use this thing, you're going to want to use this D-pad shield thing here, which, by the way, also doesn't work that well because it's just not tuned properly.
So let's say you forgive these folks for making one of the worst analog joysticks I've ever used,
Glue
and
it.
one of the squishiest
Just
D-pads
glue it in
ever
or
presented
something.
in any console I've ever played. But what I can't forgive them for is this. All this console is an NES on a chip, so why it has 6 face buttons to the right is the most confusing thing I've ever seen. All the games built into this system only utilize A and B, but what they've done is
maybe it's the left
duplicated
stick or
each
right
button twice
stick bumper
for turbo
or something like that.
functionality with C, X, Y, and Z. I don't know
the
why
back
anyone
trigger for
would
the
need that many buttons that do the exact same
Nintendo
thing,
64
but
controller.
here it is for some bizarre reason. So, let's talk about the games. As soon as you turn on the system, you're greeted to the 15-in-1 title screen that also happens to have 2 hastily drawn dogs standing on water. And from this menu is where you select one of the 15 games to play. Well, let's start off with the very first one, World Cup 2000. Now from the title screen, you're probably assuming that this is from a company called New Game Star, and they made this game in the year 2000. But see, that's not quite accurate, because this game is actually soccer from Nintendo, a game released in 1985 on the NES. Now of course, because of how bad this console's controller is, this game is an absolute nightmare to control, but the gameplay is essentially the same as you'd find on the NES. But it's the visuals that are different. At the top of the NES original, you see the score and the time left on a match, which is just normal, right? But on this one, there's skulls at the top. Another thing that's weird is that all of the character models in this game have horns for some reason, which isn't in the original, and it makes them all look like little demons. On the original NES version of this game, you see these flags on the sides of the soccer field, but in this version, you're seeing dead bodies. I don't exactly know what all this means or why these changes were implemented, but I'm pretty sure what they're trying to insinuate here is that
the game's
this
the
is a
devil.
soccer game being played in hell. And unlike the original version of soccer, sometimes this one will do weird stuff like this.
Glitching out.
Okay, we're getting creepy now.
City A2000, another
Creepy.
game from New Game Star. Unfortunately, though, this
Why is that
another
guy
ripoff.
butt naked?
It's actually Battle City from Namco. In the original release of this game, you drive a tank while shooting at a bunch of enemies and protect this iron emblem you have that's hidden behind a wall. However, in this
Look at that guy,
bastardized
he
version
looks
of the
naked.
game, you're a naked man shooting
Yeah,
his dick at oncoming enemies.
What the
I've got no
fuck?
idea why his dick's out, but there you go. It's there and everyone can see it, and I don't think there's any way to really hide what he's doing.
My
You can
God.
shoot things out of your and that's a thing you can do. You know, I thought the Demon Soccer game was going to be about as weird as it got, but nope. Here we are, playing this.
This is
For our
weird.
next ripped-off game, we're taking a look at Wimbledon Champ 2000.
I guess
I
this
believe
is
they
a
meant
fighting game or
Wimbledon,
tennis?
which is
Yeah.
a real tennis championship, but I guess they just didn't know how to spell that word. So here we go. This is just tennis from the
Tennis.
NES. That's all this game is, but they've just decided to screw up the visuals a bit. All the character models are now wearing skirts and have pigtails for some reason, but they've
Yeah,
gone
that's
even
weird.
further and changed the chair umpire's model. In the original Nintendo release of this game, he looked like Mario,
Yeah.
but in this version they removed his hat and also changed the chair to look more like a milking machine of
Why?
some sort. Or some kind of weird satellite. I really don't know what he's sitting on, but it certainly isn't a chair. Our
Yeah,
next
it's
game is
weird.
called WF Law, which is actually a ripoff of Tag Team Match Muscle.
Oh,
However,
boy.
let's take a closer look at that logo. Now, call me crazy, but that definitely looks like somebody bent over pulling their butt cheeks apart, which is a very bizarre kind
Looks
of
like a
logo.
pretzel,
I think it
an
was done
upside
for
down
one
pretzel.
single purpose, and that purpose was to warn people or scare them away from having to play this game. Now look, I'm not a big fan of this game originally because there are far better wrestling games out there, but this version of the game has been made even worse by using one of the most disgusting color palettes I could have ever envisioned. It's all green and
Yes.
toxic looking. You just can't look at it for too long because it actually hurts your eyes.
Damn.
And because of the ridiculous color choices they made on this hack, it almost looks like these characters are farting on each other instead of wrestling. It's really weird. There were a bunch of way better wrestling games on the NES and on the Famicom, and they decided to take one that was just bad to begin with. I guess it would have been harder to steal a better game? Maybe?
Game looks like it was
Next
made
up
by
on
the Shit
chopping
Pickle
block is
from
On the
Angry
Road,
Video Game
which
Nerd.
is a ripoff
Shit
of
Pickle made that game.
1985's Road Fighter from Konami.
Road Fighter.
Now this is a very strange game because what they've done here
I remember this
is
game,
they've
it was good.
modified almost all the sprites
Whoa.
to look just a little
What
bit
did they do
different,
to it?
but they've also done one additional thing which just confuses me. Now originally they had fuel to the right here, but
Okay.
in this version of the game they've added food. Because
Food?
obviously changing fuel to food would trick everyone into thinking that
What?
they're not actually playing the original game. Now I can play the
What the
original Road Fighter pretty well, but this version of the game seems to be a little bit off. Even when taking into consideration how bad the controls are on this console to begin with, the controls seem to be a little bit less responsive than you'd be expecting. And additionally, because they've modified virtually all of the on-screen sprites in this game, the hitboxes are off, which makes it almost a damn impossibility to play properly. Number 6 on the 15 games
Oh,
is
how many
Game
are there?
of
Fuck.
Boat Race,
Boat
which
Race.
initially looked like something I had never seen before.
Now see, when
Must
I
be a
first played
Brave
this
Race.
game, I thought it was something original because I'd never really seen a boat racing game in this perspective on the NES. But here's my problem. As soon as I engaged the acceleration on this boat here, I heard something. That,
Ooh,
right
the
there.
hell's
Did you
that?
hear that? That's tires squeaking. So immediately I thought, well, you know what? This is just a palette swap of some game that actually had cars. And of course it is. This is the exact same game as this. That's all
Oh,
it is. They just
F1
did a
race.
pretty
Oh
neat
my
palette
God.
swap, but at the end of the day, it's just a palette swap one-to-one with this game. They didn't even bother to change the
Damn.
music or sound effects. And which is weird,
Wow.
because you've got tires squeaking in the water.
Yeah.
Now, this game is kind of funny.
Top
it's
Gun.
called Top Gun Mission, but it actually isn't Top Gun. You see, Top Gun doesn't look like this. What this game is Sky Destroyer. But what's hilarious about this game is they switched out the colors. Now see, while you're playing it here, it looks like you're flying over some grasslands or something, but see, all of that in the original game is actually water. Heck, even when you crash into this ground, you still splash like it was water. Just such laziness. The next game on the set is called Autumn Hunt, which clearly is, yep, Yep, that's just Duck Hunt. They've
Duck
really
Hunt's
messed
really-
with the graphics here, and it is
They just
really
copy and
awkward
paste
looking.
games
I
and
mean,
just-
those ducks don't even look like they have heads.
It doesn't
and
even
the
look
dog
like a
is
duck.
now a Dalmatian for some reason. This is just a very strange looking version
like a
of
seagull.
this very iconic
Seagull,
game,
not
but
a
it gets
duck.
even worse when you
Or
stop and
flying
think about this
penguin.
game being included on this set.
So you've got a knockoff version of Duck Hunt on this system. But why is that a problem? Well, look at the console. This is it. This is all I got.
Oh, and the
This
controller.
game doesn't work when you're playing with this controller. Even all the extra 6 buttons don't do anything. But here's the really big problem.
Oh, God.
Let's say you do have an NES zapper that you want to hook up to this so that you can play it on a good old-fashioned CRT monitor. Well, that's not going to happen because the input underneath is the same input from an Atari or a Sega Genesis.
Oh god.
I've got no idea why they use that controller input method. I have to assume that at some point when you bought this thing originally from the shopping network, they would actually give you a bundled zapper. But as far as I'm aware, it doesn't exist and I couldn't find one. When I bought this was all I got with it. So
Damn.
that's it. Useless game.
So after that waste of a game, we now have UFO shooting,
Oh,
which is just
spare us.
play shooting, which was included with the original release of Duck Hunt.
Ah, see, that's stupid. All they did was they took a game that was already included with Duck Hunt and broke it off into 2 separate games. Basically, they just kind of faked their way through 15 games. But why the hell would you do that? And what makes it worse, this is another game you can't play because you don't have a zapper input for this.
Now, as we've seen, all the games on the system so far have been copies of NES or Famicom games that already existed in the past and were just hacked and modified in slight ways
Yeah.
to be on this system.
Now, something interesting I noticed about this is that on the back, it's got a little faceplate over an area where it looks like you could put cartridges. If not NES cartridges, maybe Famicom carts. So I decided to open the thing up and take a look at the back.
Okay.
And you can see that there was some evidence of some kind of input connector method for the bottom here. So I believe there might be variations of the system somewhere out there where you can actually put cartridges on here.
Wow.
And when you open it up and take a look, all they're doing is just bypassing all that stuff off into a single chip so that you can just play that one ROM with these 15 games that are bundled into the system.
Damn.
That's all this is. A knockoff clone system that can't even play cartridges.
Oh
That
boy.
just makes it even worse.
Nah.
So, the next game on the list is City B 2000, which is just City A
Didn't we just
2000,
play
just
this?
with a
Still-
different title screen.
Yeah, we just saw that. What?
What? There's only 15 games? And you duplicated them?
How'd that
Why would you
happen?
do that? You only had to have 15 knockoff games
Yeah.
and you copied one of the games. What is the purpose of that?
Yeah.
But it gets worse because the very next game called Mission Impossible
Oh,
isn't Mission
God.
Impossible at all. It's just Top Gun Mission again. Nothing
What?
has changed. It's the exact same game they gave you earlier on, but again, for some reason. And the next game, World Rally Champ, is just on the road again. But see, what they
Why?
did to change this game out is they start you off right at Course 2 instead of Course 1. You can still get to this level by playing the very first version of this game on the game system, but I guess for people that just want to get to level 2 a lot quicker, all they have to do is click on this game. And the next game after this is called Rugged Racer, which, let me guess, yes, absolutely, it's just Course 3 from On the Road. But what
Wow.
makes this even worse is that this is one of the original levels from Road Fighter from Konami, but they've simply butchered it. Look, for some reason, your car starts off in the dirt on the side of the road.
Yeah,
and as soon
why?
as the game begins, you clip right back onto the street. Every time they introduce a new version of this game, the game seems to be hacked more and more to the point where it's almost unplayable. I mean,
Damn.
they simply can't keep copying this game, right? But wait.
Oh, please,
We've got
no
another
more.
game on this list that might be another one, Highway Star.
Highway Star.
And yes, it's
Ugh,
Course 4
fucking
from
hell.
the exact same game.
Fuck me. What were they
Why would you do
thinking?
this? That doesn't make any sense. You already
Yeah.
copied the game 3 times. Why would you need to copy it again?
Yeah,
As if
why?
having 4 versions
So
of the
fucking
same racing
cheap.
game isn't bad enough, the final title on this 15-game
Oh,
epic
God,
is
no,
called
please, no.
Grand Prix Champ.
What's this
and I'm
one?
pretty sure you're all assuming it's gonna be that racing game again. Well, you'd be wrong.
What
it's
is
the
it?
boat racing game being repeated.
Oh, this is just insane. 15 games and you copied them again and
And
again?
again and again,
Why would you
yeah,
do
why?
this?
Why
There
would
had
you
to have
do
been
that?
15 games you could have ripped off from any source, but you guys were so lazy that you didn't even copy other games, you just copied your own stupid games. And look, some of these games have weird variations and differences between them, but they're just bad hacks, bad modifications that are just terrible with what they are. This is god-awful.
Nah.
Trying to find anything positive in this console is pretty much an impossibility. I mean, I was expecting it to be bad, but not this bad.
So there you have it, mostly 15 games that are just awful, being played on the plug-and-play system from the shopping channel. But this is what confuses me. Those 15 games, even the duplicates, are from other manufacturers who still own the code for these games. And Duck Hunt being a really big Nintendo property, why the heck did they not get sued or served a cease and desist for selling these systems?
Yeah.
Maybe they did. And maybe that's why these things don't exist anymore. But I like to hope that maybe the shopping channel wised up and figured, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't screw people over by selling them these things.
Yeah.
Because if I woke up one morning and my parents gave me this as a gift, I probably would have hurled it right back at their faces.
Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah, the worst plug and play console ever. That is probably the worst plug and play console ever. I mean, you can have a bloody Raspberry Pi to emulate those games better than that shit. Yeah, that was pretty dreadful. It reminds me of that like Action 51 or 52 game, whatever it was. I think it was like Action 51 or 52. Can't remember what number it was. But that game with the Cheetah Men game, yeah, that's what it reminded me of, the list of those games. And it was just space games. Like 50% of the games were like space games. That's what it reminded me of. Just terrible list. Yeah, that was good. I enjoyed that very much. The concept of it is having a sort of console in the controller is just bizarre. I mean, can you imagine actually today in 2019 having a Nintendo 64 controller and having every single Nintendo 64 game in a Nintendo 64 controller, and all you have to do is plug it into a HDMI output or input, and then you can play the game right away from the controller? That would actually be pretty cool, to play a Nintendo 64 game with the controller itself all built into one. That would be very fascinating, but the delay would be weird. But yeah, that was good. I enjoyed that very much. Now there is a second one. I will be getting around to that, but that one's really long. So we're gonna do that another time, because that video is a very long. I think it's like 40 minutes long. I mean, Jesus. Yeah. I like this video very much. I didn't know there was like a Nintendo 64 sort of style controller, and there was like games built in. But that's a nice concept. I actually enjoy the concept of having games built into a controller. That's actually very fascinating. Can you imagine having a Nintendo Entertainment System controller, having all the games in the controller itself? I mean, that's a fascinating concept. I actually quite like that concept. I know it's not going to be the same, but that's very smart, because you could just you know have. Or then again, you won't be able to play co-op games. But then I guess you could daisy chain the controllers together with I don't know, the USB ports or something, whatever. But yeah, that's a fascinating concept, having an entire console in a controller. I actually quite enjoyed that very much. It's quite a fascinating, curious thing. Hopefully someone would I don't know, 3D print a controller and do all that. That would be pretty cool. But yeah, if you like this video, make sure to give a like, comment down below, and make sure to subscribe to my channel if you enjoy my content. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.